Hello everybody, today I felt like doing a short topic video on something that's been on my mind lately when I've been playing shmups, and that's the question of when a game is challenging and when a game is punishing, and what's the difference and how it affects the experience of playing a game. So some stuff that I've been playing Dojo Loop 2, doing some practice, mostly just playing stage 5 and the final boss rush, because that's where the real challenge of the game lies. And while I really like playing that stage and the boss rush in practice mode, I feel really intimidated about trying to do a real run or putting the whole Loop 2 together, because while I think that the challenge for the most part, the challenge that the game presents is fair, there's just a lot of it. Like, there's this much challenge in Dojo Loop 2. And you have some leeway for mistakes, but the leeway that you have is like this big. So it's like you can die a couple of times, you can do some panic bombing, you can even mess up the kind of hibachi setup, and recover if you get really lucky or if you get really good at the washing machine or whatever. So, but the discrepancy between this and this is too much for me, at least for now. So it feels like even if I learn the game really well, it feels too punishing, like the leeway that I have for mistakes. So I don't know. There's just something like, off about that for me personally. So I thought I played something a little easier, and I felt like, hey, maybe I should return to Kingdom Grand Prix, the rising fantasy racing shmup that everybody seems to hate for some reason, but is secretly really fun. Well, fun until until you start doing Loop 2. And Loop 2 in Kingdom Grand Prix is really interesting because it's not the same stages all over again. It's a whole different set of stages. So you can pick stages in both in Loop 1 and Loop 2, or the stages that you don't pick in Loop 1, you end up playing Loop 2. So very interesting thing. So, and to my surprise, the Loop 2 stages weren't that bad, actually. It's kind of on the easier side, like Kingdom Grand Prix when it comes to arcade games. But then when you die, you get powered down. And when you get powered down, then enemies and bosses just refuse to die. And then what that often means is that you die again, and then you got powered all the way down, and then you just lose. And there are places where you can recover, but there's also places where you can't. Like if you die before the forest stage, there's this forest stage where there's an unrelenting wave of enemies that shoot these bullet patterns that are really difficult to dodge. And the way that you get through it is you just kind of destroy the enemies as quickly as possible. And if you're powered down, that's just not possible. And it's just, to me, it feels almost impossible to get through when powered down. So a very chill game until it suddenly becomes impossible. So again, doesn't feel super good. And lastly, my last video was about Darius Gaiden, and at first I tried doing a default auto fire run, but that brings into like a huge how do you say it, brings into relief, brings into focus like the big power down syndrome of that game, where when you die you get powered down, and when you are powered down, just like in Kingdom Grand Prix, like the stages not too bad, but the bosses just start to soak up damage like crazy. Like if you arrive at the boss with just like a wave weapon, like a powered down wave weapon, it just becomes a completely different thing. And again, your run is probably over unless you practice recover and stuff. So it's kind of cool how all of these games are like the level of difficulty varies from game to game, but the kind of punishing aspect is the same. So Dojo Loop 2, very difficult and punishing. Kingdom Grand Prix, pretty chill, but punishing. And Darius Gaiden, kind of moderately difficult if you're not doing 30 hertz, and punishing. So I don't know. I keep hitting myself into this wall of punishment, and that kind of made me think about, again, this distinction of like what's the difference between challenge and punishments. And what I came up with may seem like kind of a vague distinction. Maybe we can talk about this, discuss this in the comments. Like a challenging game tests you on what you can do. It tests you on your skill, while a punishing game tests you on whether you can do something without messing up. Like it tests you, your kind of almost like perfectionism or something. And that, again, that may seem like kind of like what's the real difference here, but I think it really changes up the experience. Like when a game is punishing, I notice that I get these feelings like, well, it's commonplace to like get these sometimes, you know, rage quit or get angry at the game when you lose or feel frustrated. But the magic of like arcade games and shmups is that you kind of work through those emotions and you get back into the game. You maybe learn a new strat or practice a section that gives you trouble, and then you overcome it, and then it feels great and all of that good stuff. But with punishing games, there is some kind of difference. So because they can punish you for a tiny mistake, or something that you don't expect. Like in Kingdom Grand Prix, there can be RNG or unexpected patterns, and then that can tank your run. Of course, you can always practice. You can always try again. Just put in the time. Just put in the effort. But again, there's just something different about challenging games and punishing games, because punishing games, like they start to, in me, I feel like this resentment welling up. Like I feel like I deserve the clear or whatever, and the game just doesn't give it to me. While a challenging game, if I put in the effort, I can be reasonably sure that I'll eventually clear the game without like the run dying to something super unexpected or super unfair or something like that. And then when you get into scoring, this is where it's again, this problem kind of comes up, because I've been returning to some games that I've liked, which I've only done a survival clear of, and trying to do a little bit of scoring and stuff. And in a lot of games, the scoring is dependent on some kind of punishing factor. Like if you like chain, whether it's the Pachi style chaining or rising style metal chaining, like when you make one mistake, you have to like start building that stuff all over again. But of course, if you have no punishing elements, then there's like no stakes, and then you don't get that kind of euphoric feeling of overcoming something really cool and kind of doing the impossible. So I guess there's like kind of the point that I'm trying to make is that there's a really fine like balance of hitting of the game being challenging and punishing enough, but not too punishing or something. And it's a rare thing for a game to achieve in both survival and scoring. So yeah, I thought I would go through a couple of classic shmups where I think they're not, none of them is perfect, but let's just talk about them. So I thought I'd start off with the original Pachi, which is, I think, a cool example of like if you've never played arcade games, if you've never once CC'd a bullet hell shmup, an arcade game, an arcade shmup, whatever, Pachi is going to be extremely challenging. It's a super difficult game. Like for me, it was my first arcade 1cc, and it was just kind of, it felt truly impossible. But once I learned the game, I felt like I could do it if I just did everything right. And because the game has so many bombs, I always had the opportunity to go like to panic bomb. Or even if I like messed up and died in an unfortunate place with bombs still in stock, I didn't get powered down too much. And because the game gives you more bombs the more you die, it felt like, it just gives you so many resources that I felt like I could still do it while it was super difficult. Now, I haven't played Loop 2 of Pachi, but from what I understand, everything changes. Like the game becomes extremely punishing where you need to have all the resources for like hibachi fights or something, and then you're not allowed to make any mistakes, and the whole experience changes. But I think for like just a survival one-all challenging game, but not a punishing one. Continuing with Cave, Ketui I feel is a very cool example, because I think that is a very difficult game, even just to do a survival one-all. It's like one of the most difficult. Like I haven't cleared all the cave games, but from my experience, I would say like, well, Side-Eye Ojo is more difficult, but Ketui is up there. So a very challenging game, but not super punishing, because again, it gives you so many resources. Like they give you a second hidden extent, which I don't think they do in any other of their games, and you get lots of bombs. And there's no like gotcha moments in the game. There's not really RNG. Like when let's say you're hitting stage 4 boss, you know it's going to be brutal. You know there's going to be like 10 different phases, and you will have to bomb. You will probably die, but you know what's coming. And so it doesn't come as a surprise, or the game doesn't like troll you or anything. It's just whether you can do it, whether you can survive what the game throws at you. So I would say that is an example of a very challenging but not too punishing game. And the interesting thing about Ketui is that scoring, like I haven't done too much scoring in Ketui, I've just like scored stage 1. But again, from what I understand, the scoring is kind of lenient, like of course, unless you're going for like super high scores. But if you just want to get into scoring, because you don't need to build up like those stage-long chains, it kind of feels better to, find those small chains with they're not chains in Ketui, but whatever you call it, the collecting the chips. So you can do it kind of the scoring like in short bursts instead of having to like do something perfectly. So that's kind of cool. But again, with looping Ketui, again, everything changes. I haven't played the Omote or Ura loops, but I know that the requirements for getting into the loops are pretty strict. And that's where it turns into a punishing game, because Ura loop is like no miss, no bomb. The first loop, it's like, what are you talking about? Like, who wants to do that? So kind of an interesting example. And a final cave game I wanted to mention is Espirade, which is very interesting because I think a lot of people really like Espirade. They obviously like the style, and there's like the patterns are pretty unique, and lots of cool bosses, lots of cool world building. It's a very memorable game, I would say, and an immediately appealing game. But I often like when people talk about Espirade, like the people who have actually gone for the clear, it feels like they often say something on the lines of, yeah, I love Espirade, but it makes me angry, or getting the clear was like such an ordeal, or something along those lines. And I think there's a very good reason for that. Actually, two reasons. The first reason is that the dodging just doesn't work in the game the way that it's supposed to. Like, it's either the hitbox size or the way that the hitbox moves. I don't know, there's just like it's technically flawed, the way that your dodging works. And when you combine it with Espirade's patterns, which are they are based on, there's lots of micro dodging through like these very, very kind of noisy patterns. There's like very small bullets, lots of like overlap. And it's just, you just can't, like if you had a Ketui hitbox, you could dodge that stuff, but with the way that dodging works in Espirade, it just like punishes you for like doing dodges that you feel like you should be able to do, and that feels bad. And the second reason for why Espirade feels punishing and rage-inducing is because it has a mandatory true last boss, like essentially. So you're not allowed to screw up too much before hitting the final boss, and then you need to use all the resources because it is so hard compared to the rest of the game. So that's why I'd say like I've only cleared Espirade once, and I don't think I will be returning to that game anytime soon. Like, it's a game that I want to like more. Like, it's just, I don't know. Well, for me, it's the hitbox or the problem with the dodge, and not so much the true final boss. But of course, when you can't dodge the last boss, like the way that your brain thinks that you're able to, it just makes you kind of feel kind of bad. So That's Espirade. Oops, my microphone started to drift from all this ranting. And one final example that I wanted to mention, this is a kind of a spicy one, or maybe this is a hot take or something, but I think I've talked about this particular aspect of this game before on the channel, and that's Battle Garegga, because, you know, Battle Garegga is difficult. There's no way around it. It's just a hard game. But once you learn it, once you know what to do, once you practice the stages, I find that I usually can get to at least like stage 6 of the game, stage 6 or stage 7. Like my runs very rarely die in the kind of early parts of the game, so there's like no reset syndrome, because the game expects you to die like continuously before reaching the end. So even if you mess up and you die, that's okay, because you're expected to. Of course, you can mess up too much and then the run is over. But I feel like with Garegga, I always feel like I have a chance of clearing, like right up to the very end. Even though like Blackheart 2 and Glow Squid are kind of unfair fights, you could say they're kind of punishing, but there's like RNG goes both ways, because you can like you can enter Blackheart with like no extends left and you feel like the run is over, and then maybe because you died so much the rank is slightly lower, and maybe Blackheart doesn't decides not to use its most devious attacks, and suddenly you break through and then you get maybe a score extend just as you hit Glow Squid. And there's like this, I guess that's what like the Hidden Fortress always talks about, like drama in runs, that he likes shmup runs where there's a lot of drama. And I agree, that's the kind of secret ingredient of what makes a run memorable, what makes a game kind of special and make it feel good. Like there's like this, you're like starting out the game, you're doing the easy stages, everything is going well, then you hit maybe stage 3 and 4 and suddenly you plummet, you mess up, you lose your resources, and you're like, oh no, the run is over, but let's just keep playing, I don't want to reset. And then you enter the final stretch and suddenly you realize maybe this is happening, and you know, everything changes at the last minute, and that just feels so good. And with a punishing game, I don't think that is really like possible. I think the most classic example of a punishing shoot 'em up is something like R-Type. Well, I haven't. I have tried R-Type obviously, but I haven't cleared R-Type or anything. But from what I understand, it's like if you memorize the game and you do everything correctly, the game is not too bad, like doing a 1-all of R-Type. But then if you mess up, it becomes it can become like, if you die at a certain stage, it can become like almost impossible. It becomes like a completely different game, let's put it that way. Or like, well, I've played a lot of Gradius, and of course there's the classic Gradius syndrome, like where you're just cruising and then, you know, when you mess up, it can turn into a nightmare. And that's just kind of different from like doing something like a Garegga, where, you know, where you have those ups and downs, and then at the end you suddenly go up. So yeah, I guess that was all that I wanted to say. Just going through some of those examples and maybe trying to formulate like why certain games feel different compared to others. I don't know if I really have like kind of closing thoughts or like this huge point that I want to make. I think it's mostly I wanted to talk through this just to kind of make sense for myself for like why some games feel like much better to play. You know, in a kind of like they create maybe, yeah, it's not really about like maybe feeling good. It's just some games generate more negative emotions. And you know, when you're going for arcade shmup 1ccs, you're always going to get frustrated, angry, all of these things. But I think there's a healthy amount of that, and then there's a kind of an unhealthy amount of just when you just start feeling bad about a game. That's when it's like what's happening and why is that happening? And I think for me, it's just kind of I think at least right now, like games that are too punishing, they just don't feel that great to me. There's just kind of a fine line that you can cross, and then I don't like feel like I can. Then in those situations, I enjoy practicing the games more than actually going for a run. Like I've practiced Dojo Loop 2 a lot, but I haven't gone really for runs, and I still enjoyed my time. Maybe I'll eventually try doing a run, or I think I'll go back to playing Kingdom Grand Prix, maybe just like save stating from start of loop 2 or something, but like going for an actual clear where I have to first play through the first loop and then, like, I don't know, just avoid avoid getting powered down. It just doesn't feel that satisfying to me, I guess. But yeah, I guess this is just if it feels like I'm rambling, it's kind of a work in progress thought process for me too. But yeah, just wanted to share some of this stuff, and I'm really interested in hearing from all of you if you have thoughts about this, if there's like a game that's that you like or want to like, but then there's a punishing aspect that makes you kind of not want to play it, or maybe there's a game that feels where the challenge feels really fair or something. So please feel free to share any thoughts that you might have in the comments. And as always, thanks for listening, and see you next time.